Hello, everyone. It's Dan King here with another Fireside Chat where we explore the nexus between business growth and leadership. And it's always a tremendous pleasure for us to celebrate business leaders who are extremely accomplished, who care about people and care deeply about the human side of business. Today, really thrilled to be with Daniel Mangena, speaker and author and abundance expert. Daniel, welcome to the show. Absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, when someone with such an illustrious name extends an invitation, you have to come, don't you? You have to come. And such a cool cat. I've loved the times that we've had to connect before. So the opportunity to come together and co-create something was something I jumped at. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, let's co-create something spectacular. Daniel, would love to start out with an understanding of your origin story and what brought you to do the wonderful work you do in the world.
Yeah, so I don't have an especially dark origin story. My mum wasn't a crack addict. I wasn't, raised in the slums of East London. I'm actually from just like a pretty normal middle class family. My parents were immigrants, but they weren't economic migrants. They emigrated from Zimbabwe to the UK in the 70s before it was cool. So they weren't like running away from like a war or anything. My dad wanted to get more education and he was able to do more in the UK. So they packed off, took my brother and sister, who were, I think, 2 and 5 at the time, my older brother and sister, moved to the UK. And I was born after they moved there, along with my 2 younger sisters. But something that I've learned since then is that although the physical dangers aren't there, perhaps from someone from a middle class background, there are mental traps that you find yourself in, mental and environmental traps, little things like being trained to just be a little bod that goes into the system. You go, you get your education, you get your job, just sort of churning out lemmings really for the system. And I didn't really respond very well to that. And so my entrepreneurial journey started quite early. I taught myself to make computers when I was 13 years old. Whenever we'd go to other countries, I'd look for things at the flea market I could buy and bring back and sell back home. I was that guy. And all of that led to me making my first million when I was just 19 years old. Unfortunately. And I say the word unfortunately because when you have early success without any of the learnings of how to deal with early success, a young mind that hasn't been tested can very easily fall into the arrogance of youth, which is what actually happened with me. So I ended up not having the right documentation, not having the right licenses for the business that I had, and the government actually took everything. I think I've been a millionaire for about 6 or 7 months. I was undeterred by that and actually was very rude to the authorities. It's like, do you know who I am? Ah! So I went off and said, I'm going to be smart now. I'm going to put everything in other people's names so they can't track it. And so I went off and built up another few million, and then everybody stole everything from me. So I actually made and lost £2 multi-million fortunes by the age of 23 years old. The second time really took me into a dark place, Dan. I actually ended up in, and it's something I talk about in my TED talk, I ended up in a deep place of suicidal ideation. And the word suicidal ideation is the closest phrase I've heard that explains the situation, but it wasn't really that. It was suicidal resolve. I committed to the idea of taking my own life because so much of my identity was tied up in me being this guy who cracked the code. I understood everything, nobody could touch me, blah, blah, blah. And then I was slapped with reality that I don't know everything. I'm not untouchable. And, because you got to remember, I've been running around by that time, I'm telling you, for a good 5-6 years, arrogantly telling everyone, I'm a know-it-all. I've got it all cracked. I understand the system. And then I was sitting there thinking, oh, crap, people are going to be saying this, people are going to be saying that. I have no identity. Who am I? What's going to go on? The only reason why I didn't make an attempt at suicide, Dan, is because I thought I would fail. I had so little self-belief. I thought I would fail. And so I didn't want to be the loser who couldn't even commit suicide, right? Fast track by a few years. And I was on the other side of that. I'd rebuilt my life. Built up another business that was doing really well. I think by that time I was getting close to £100,000 a month. So well over $100,000 a month. It did actually end up moving past that. And I was doing 100,000 sterling monthly business that was doing consulting, project funding, project management. And I was looking back and I realized I hadn't woken up in a while thinking what's going to happen, because when I had this thought that, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and I had this thought, oh crap, if I try and do it now, I'm going to fail. I actually set off to work out how I could not be a loser so I can commit my suicide successfully. And so that was my actual mission that I went on. But this is the thing. When I'm sitting here now looking back at the years that had gone by, I realized that I'd spent so much time positively polluting my mind with content that was supposed to be there for success in a certain endeavor, that there was no space for me to have that defeatist attitude that actually had led me to suicidal ideation. I had no space for that apportioning blame and blaming others and lack of self-responsibility that in my case had led to suicidal ideation. And I'd created success. I had healthy body. I was working out. I had healthy relationships with my family. I lived in a beautiful home. I was having a social life and great friendships and traveling and doing really cool stuff. And I was able to actually sit back and map that journey, and sharing that journey that I went on, going from complete hopelessness into financial abundance in a very, very deliberate and conscious way, is a big part of what I now share in the world.
So much richness to go into there. Hard to know where to go next, I'll be honest. It's an incredible story. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is, I think Jung said this, beware of unearned wisdom, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know this one.
Yeah. Really, really powerful line, and get absolute chills just thinking about how much came to you at such a young age before you were ready, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a virtue in the end, right? Because these seeds were planted and you were able to follow these seeds.
Yeah. And, sometimes people ask, if you could go back and tell your 19-year-old self, or you could change anything, what would you change? And for me, because I had a very, very visceral experience, it was quite a mystical experience at a meditation retreat that actually opened my eyes to the power of everything that had come before, and seeing that all of those events had actually led to me having the gift of the life that I get to live now. I mean, so for example, I lost my place at Oxford in the grade scandal of 2002. I was meant to go to Keble College, study politics, philosophy, and economics. I had this whole life track. I was going to go and get at least a 2-1, probably a first in the degree, go and work in the city of London, kill it there, couple of kids, whatever thing.
Yeah.
Had I succeeded in that, had that thing not gone right, I would have had a life, but it wouldn't have been the life that I've got now with the fulfillment that it's got. Had I not lost that first million, I would have been an arsehole, because it was the humility that came from the experiences that taught me to be a better human, full stop. Yeah. My ability to serve and to show up and to support people the way that I do comes from the support that I've had over the years. And that support has come from my learning to seek counsel instead of leading on my own opinions. So all of those steps, as painful as many of them were, led to who I am today. So I wouldn't exchange it for anyone or for anything.
Makes total sense. How would you articulate then the relationship between abundance and deserving? How would you articulate this relationship between, the abundance appearing and worthiness?
Yeah. So my whole thing, and this is a big part of, so I'm referred to as an abundance activator in people, because I've got this really interesting perspective on it. He says that when you look at nature, needs being met, which is how I define abundance as all your needs being met with overflow that gives space for growth and expansion. Okay. When you look at nature, that's how things naturally occur. Everything in nature moves in harmony. It grows, it continues to grow. And when it stops growing, it moves into degradation and dies. If something gets taken out of balance, AKA humans get involved in the environment and mess things up, it still moves into a new state of equilibrium where all needs are met with space for growth and expansion. That's the natural order of things. So abundance, I don't believe, is something that we have to be worthy of. However, the way that we engage with how abundance shows up in our life, I think that there is wisdom that we can apply and discernment that we can apply in order to best enjoy that experience and make the most of it.
Tell me about the discernment that's required.
Well, think about this. Let's say, for example, that I have X amount of resources. Okay. As a human, we have several choices available to us, especially in the information age, about what we do with those resources. Discernment as to what's going to give me and those that are related to me the most benefit from that is a matter of choice, whether conscious or unconscious. So, I could say I've got the opportunity to go and take this money, for example, put it in a project. I can go and spend it on a jet. I can go and put it into something philanthropic. Depending on my relationship to the idea of purpose and meaning and what I'm here to do, I'm going to be making a choice, a discernment between those options, and then moving towards an outcome.
And what criteria feed into how you make that discernment?
So I don't use my brain to make choices. I use my brain to act on the choices that I make.
Yes.
One of the things that we use in our money DNA teaching is a modality called human design. And human design looks at the way that you play with energetics and experience them in your body. So for me, I'm a generator, sacral generator. So the truth of the energetics around me is experienced by me most viscerally by gut response in the moment. And so what I do when I'm coming up against a choice is I look at the options, sometimes I speak them out, and I see which one gives me a visceral gut response immediately, and I move with that. If there's no response, I don't make a choice. I come back to it later and I try again. Then once that choice has been made, the brain gets involved and it starts to look at, what the solution is going to be. I allow the heart to also have a guiding part in that. But I bring all of these together. But the head isn't the leader. It's the general, the ruling entity definitely is the gut response in the moment for me. And everyone has got their own thing. I mean, someone who's in the human design modality, someone who's solar plexus based, they don't have the truth in the moment. They need to sit and feel both sides of it. And they're going to see, maybe after sleeping on it, coming back to it after a couple of hours, that's what feels like the right answer. There are different ways that we can engage with the energetics of people, places, and things to understand what's best for us.
So I'm no human design expert. I think I'm the same type as you. And I've noticed the exact same experience where for me, it's a chill in the body. So I have a sense of what's like a yes or a no, right? And we talk about the gut. I think for me, I feel this deep, like when it's a yes, a deep intuitional chill, waves of energy that go through my stomach. And if it's a no, it's this very constricting, step away from that kind of feeling, right?
That's awesome. I love that of course, you know about your human design. But yeah, we encourage everyone. I mean, human design is a rabbit hole you can get lost down in. But as long as you understand your type, your strategy, and your authority, there's so much power that can come from that. We're doing one of our money DNA workshops today, and I'm really excited to see how the guys respond to just backtracking through their lives and seeing that, hang on a minute, when the solar plexus based people were making gut decisions, everything went to pants. When the gut people were trying to wait on it and sit with it, the brain gets involved and everything goes to pants. It's really interesting to see when you actually analyze the data from your own experience, just how much truth there is in this.
It's really fascinating to contrast human design with what we are generally taught to do in Western society, right? So I would say we're generally taught to use the head. Certainly if you've gone to uni, in my case, multiple times, I'm afraid, one ends up using the brain. The brain is just the tool. And we read as many books as we possibly can to stuff our brain with more knowledge, which in turn is supposed to give us the discernment to make these choices more effectively. How counterintuitive on one level, if you come from that educational system, is it to think that, well, for some people, all you need is the gut? What? Or at least the gut as decision maker, as principal decision maker, is a radical change and a hard thing to believe in for so many of us that come from that tradition.
And this is one of the things, I teach another concept called micro shifting. We don't jump with 2 feet into anything. Because if you try to jump 2 feet into anything that's too far removed from what you experience and know to be true, then your ability to even benefit from it gets diminished very much. And so what I initially do is I just have people first, like when you're going to a restaurant, just check your gut response to something that you know you like and something that you know you don't like. And just feel that in your body. With people that you know are turds, just feel your body response, and people that you know are good, feel your body response, and just start to develop this relationship and then start using it with small things. Not should I buy this company or not? Or should I leave my wife or whatever the thing is? Should I have a baby with this man? Just do it with small things and start to develop that relationship of trust. I think for so many of us, we've got such a disconnected relationship, if we can even use the word relationship, with ourselves, and we're
Yes.
trusting, our innate intelligence, that the idea of going wholly into it is, so there is a relationship of trust that needs to be built. You don't walk up to someone off the street, hey, I've just met you, let's get married and have kids, but hang on a minute, I'm not gay, I don't care, maybe you are, like whatever the thing is. Like, it's a
Yeah.
building. Hi, my name is, hey, I would love to, hey, let's develop a couple of dates, whatever. Build that relationship over time, and then start to bring it into bigger decisions once you've seen the truth of it for yourself.
Yes. I love that suggestion to start small. And I also love the example of food, because I think that's one that for anyone that's a little skeptical, that's going to bring the concept to life. Even
Yes.
if you're a little skeptical of what we're talking about, you've probably been in that moment where you're in a restaurant. Or if you've never done this, go to a restaurant and look at the menu and feel into the different options that are on that menu. Your stomach is going to have responses to those items on the menu. If you really sit in silence for a while and feel into what you could order. You could order the burger, you could order the salad. If you feel into your stomach, if you feel into your body, you're going to have two different responses.
And the thing as well is that I would invite everyone, before jumping into doing that, just take a few deep breaths. Get out of the parasympathetic nervous system. How long did that take? 10 seconds?
Less.
10 seconds? Do that and then play with it, because you're going to be out of here, more into here, and able to really feel that response in your gut or your body, or whatever the thing is for you.
It's a fantastic suggestion. And, it makes me think of this difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. It's huge. If we spend most of our time, when we're out in the world, we're making money, we're building businesses, we're stuck in our sympathetic nervous system. If that fight or flight part of us is dominant.
High beta all the way.
It's going to be trouble. It's going to be big trouble.
And the thing is that, for the skeptics, or for the left brainers in the audience, the data is there to show the power of accessing alpha brainwaves, which you can do. Be in a state of relaxed awareness most of the day. I'm in alpha right now, right? Which allows you to access more of yourself, to have higher productivity, to be in more of a state of flow. Anyone who doesn't, check out the book Stealing Fire and the great research that those guys did, which will really just help you to understand how, everybody listening to this, we're all peak performers. We're all, we're making a good 7, 8, 9 figures. We're doing well. But when we start to step into that wellness that we're doing, accessing more of ourselves, not only can we do more, we can actually start to do more with less. When people come and work with us that are having tremendous financial success, but are doing it at a cost, and we start to show them, for example, things like micro-shifting, things like applying their money DNA, things like different approaches to time mastery, and doing all that really more embodied, and with this access to that deep state of flow, we're seeing people increase their revenue, increase their potential, increase their net worth with as little as 20% of the energy and time that they were deploying before. It's absolutely crazy what can happen when you start to access these parts of yourself.
Yeah. Time mastery. I love the way you phrase that. Let's go into that a little bit more. Some of our audience are what we call creator CEOs. So these are people that want to build not just a profitable business, but a meaningful business. And for them, they care so much about their customers, their team, and it sometimes to them is going to feel like a bit of a betrayal if they're working fewer hours. There's almost a part of them that is going to feel resistant to the idea of bringing supposedly less of themselves to the table. There's a part of them that is drawn to 60, 70 hours a week, more. What do you say to someone like that?
So here's the thing. And what I'm going to do is, we've prepared a resource page for the listeners, which will give them the link to dreamwithdan.com/fireside, but we'll give them the link. And I've just made a note to include my very first book, From Time to Time, in those resources. We'll put that. It's not a long book. You're not going to be there for hours reading it. It's a very, very short book. But what it does is it shows you systematically how you can manage your time more effectively and create that leverage. Because having more time available doesn't mean necessarily that you need to do less. It means that what you are doing is more productive, and you can actually scale and leverage the amount of productivity that you can bring to the world, but you're not a slave to the amount of time that you have to bring to something. So, for example, for me, I've got several businesses all over the world. Some of them require none of my time, some require one call a week. But that's because I've applied this system of mastery to how that time is leveled out. So instead of me seeing it as, oh, I'm spending less time, no, actually, I'm able to fully show up in the time that I do dedicate and bring that fullness to more areas. So as a business owner, if you're focusing on the areas where you've got the most flow and you've got the most strength to bring into something and allow the other pieces to be taken by people who are doing the same, as a collaborative group, think about it. If you've got 10 people working on a project, everybody's focusing on one part of it and focusing on the place where they've got the most skill and the most strength. Each of you are probably going to be spending a big chunk less running around doing things that don't serve you. That means all of you have got more time to bring that same power to multiple things. So you can actually experience a 10x in what you're doing. And think about it, that 10x is your own contribution, but that it actually becomes compounded and multiplied because you've got the 10x times 10 because you've got 10 people 10xing. It's really powerful to think of this not as I'm being lazy, is I'm being more productive. And that productivity I can actually use to go and do more and have more impact, do more. But I can stop at the point of burnout. I can stop at the point of, I can stick to what works for me. So if you find that, hang on a minute, I'm actually found that my sweet spot is working 5 hours a day, but you've been working 20 hours a day. Well, guess what? You can come and spend that 5 hours a day super duper productively, sharpfully, spend time nourishing, self-caring, doing things that are of meaning and contribution, spending time with family, whatever feels good for you, and be fully present in that time that you are working. There's magic to doing it that way.
It's just magical. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to read that. I can't wait to dig into that and read that. So much there. Yeah. When we think about this concept of 10xing and having a team slide into their proper role, right? Like when we were talking about human design earlier, the reality is there are certain roles that we're here to play, right? And when we're on a team and we're unintentional about how we're allocating time, we are straying into someone else's role often, right? Our own sort of sense of self is diminished. And then we combine that with the fact that we so often, I think you put this beautifully, we overestimate the importance of quantity of attention and underestimate the importance of quality of attention all the time, right? In an age of multitasking where we're blasted by notifications all the time.
And multitasking is a lie. Sorry to cut you, Deb, but multitasking
Totally.
is a lie. The consciousness can only be in one place at a time. You may be skipping, flitting between multiple things, but how much of yourself is building any momentum towards true, potent outcomes there? It's really not.
I can almost guarantee you the people in the 60 to 70 hour a week crowd are trying to multitask, right?
Yeah.
There's just so many inputs that their consciousness is seeking and trying to handle. It's utter chaos.
Yeah. And do you know what's really crazy, Dan, is that we get resistance from some people. I mean, they pay us a lot of money to work with us at that level. And then we'll say, you know, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to work. What do you mean work less? But when they start to see that they're working 3 full days worth of hours a week, that their health's improving, the relationships with their family are improving, that they're feeling more meaning, that they're getting up with joy in the morning, that they're actually excited about life and they're making more money. All right, the proof is in the pudding. And we've seen it too many times to not know that this is the truth.
Yes. Ooh, yeah. Well, I know I definitely feel a chill and a yes as I hear those words. So all well and good to be skeptical, but you never know until you try something, right?
Exactly. And this goes to the heart of what you work with your guys as well, having them really focus and not be scattered and be in the creative flow so that they can actually have the most impact and do the most. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir with you, but yeah, just to reinforce even the work that you're doing in the world. Yeah, that focused, directed, consciously diving in and getting it done. Doing that when you're in your unique flow. And again, we bring the money DNA into that and really just detailed map exactly where your flow is. When we work with teams or with organizations and we map out like the team's DNA and have everyone in their exact role, we see people just ridiculously increase the amount of impact and income that they can create.
Really, really interesting. It makes total sense to me. You know, when we're building teams, an organization wants to grow, it wants to really scale. So important that the team feel like each member of the team feel like their role is contributing towards a beautiful whole. And so important that they don't feel stress around money.
Exactly.
Money is one of the greatest sources of stress for so many of us. And if an organization can, through working with someone like you, through helping people understand their money DNA, we're taking away one of the greatest sources of stress, and we're enabling our team to bring their full selves to work. We're enabling them to bring really, really deep parts of themselves to the equation. And that can't help an organization grow.
And again, when you look at an organization is an organism. It's a living, breathing organism that's made up the sum of the parts of who's inside of it, right? That's one of the reasons why I laugh when, leadership doesn't take into account the importance of the people that do some of the more menial tasks, because that's the grease that actually keeps the cogs turning. Everyone has a unique role to play. And when we go into an organization and we start, having people move pieces around and them saying, oh, hang on a minute, this isn't being properly utilized. This is being properly utilized. That's actually in a better place. And this can be in a better place. It's crazy to see how that can create such powerful change, powerful exponential growth, not even by bringing new things in or even trimming the fat, but just by having people do roles that they're properly aligned with.
Yeah. Is there, this brings to mind a question. I think, as we come towards the end of our time together, these ideas are beautiful. Is there a kind of concrete example, again, without sharing an organization's name, but is there a sort of case study or an example you could walk the audience through so they can get more of a feel for what this could look like for them?
Sure. There's one particular team of business owner. He had a team of salespeople, for example, and even so when we come in and do support with sales, right? What we want to do is we want every single member of that team individually to be a 7-figure contributor to the bottom line. Okay? Because when you think in the quick tangent, when you think about 7 figures of income minimum, that's not really that big a deal. We're talking about $83,333 a month.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you're solving a big enough problem, $20,000 a week of revenue isn't really that big a deal. But what often happens is that people are going out to have those sales conversations and not understanding the truth of what a sales conversation really is. You're having a conversation whereby you're expressing to someone that you have the capacity to liberate them from a place of pain and exploring whether your way of doing that is a fit for them. It's a yes, you move into an exchange and some kind of contract and agreement. If not, you wish them well, refer them to someone else if that's the case, and then you move on. And we came into this team and we just literally gave them that mindset shift alone, because people are thinking, oh, I've got to hit my numbers, blah, 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 blah. Well, let's break down your numbers. And that's what we did. We individually sat down with everyone before we even did the money DNA, and we made sure that on a one-to-one basis, they understood how the problem that the company that they were working with solved had more than enough space to go well beyond $20,000 a week in revenue, well beyond, because they had a problem that they were solving that had the capacity for that. So we did that and we saw a bump. I think we saw a 7 or 8% bump just from that immediately. Okay. That's just, so there wasn't even time for them to build up the pipeline differently. That's just, we haven't even gone into the money DNA yet, just with leads, prospects, existing people that they had. Then what we did is we went round and we mapped everybody's money DNA. There were 8 members of this team. We mapped everybody's money DNA. And what we ended up doing with that is showing them not only exactly how they should be relating to the people that they were speaking to, the way that they should be communicating with them, the way that they should be prospecting, and the way that they should be closing, because there's a lot of cookie cutter approaches to the sales process. But when that's aligned with how you flow most with the energy of money that's moving in a current flow through the universe anyway, and you find how you can just jump in the boat and do that, and then in that boat, you're bringing people into the boat who you've got a winning problem solution for, you're away. I don't know the up-to-date details, but within 90 days, they'd more than doubled their income.
Yeah. That is a powerful story and a beautiful note to end the sort of serious part of our conversation. But love to wrap up, Daniel, with a human question. When you're not doing this awesome work, what do you do for fun?
I just started golf properly. I'd had some lessons before I moved to Mexico, but I've started. My buddy Patrick's finally moved down from LA, and he's a really competent golf tutor. So I've been hanging out with him and my buddy Justin. The 3 of us go and knock some balls around. That I love to play with Lego. So I've got I've got a Lego table here in my office.
Always
So-
building, huh?
So yeah, I've got a Lego table here in my office, and I play with Lego. Lego City is my favorite, so I'll play
Love
with
it.
Lego City. Um, I love to create music. I've also kept my guitar here in the office. But the number one thing for me is to spend time with my son. My son's 14 months old.
Okay.
So now he's like more fun. He's playing like hide and seek, and he wants to play peekaboo and stuff. So that's my number one. But when I'm not doing that and I'm out and about, then those are some of the things I love to do.
So important for play, even as adults, especially as adults. It's so important for play to be a part of our lives, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Daniel, such a pleasure being with you. Felt
Thank you,
such a
Dan.
kinship, such beautiful energy through this conversation. So absolute pleasure
Likewise.
to be with you.
Thank you.